Alright, this is my Logan model 1875 lathe. It's screw cutting and turret. Though I don't have a turret on it, I do have this quick change tool post. Just going to give you a basic rundown of the machine, starting with the big picture. Big blue, weighs a few 100 pounds. The pedestal is part of the machine. So, got a 3-phase motor, 220 or 440 volt. I've got it set to 220. I bought a phase converter off Amazon, and I run the machine off that. So, the machine has 2 speed pulleys from the motor to the changer, and then it's got 4 here, 4 there for 4 different speeds on your belt. This is to release tension on this belt so you can change it. There you go, pull tension back on that. There's my 4-jaw chuck. I just got a 3-jaw, so I'm trying that out. And I have this wired to the drum switch. You can't wire from the VFD to the drum switch to the motor. Wire the VFD into the motor, and then I wired the drum switch into the trigger on the VFD, so that way when I turn it forward, it starts, reverse, it slows down, or stop. It slows down and then starts the other way. Basics. Carriage. This is your left-right. Very simple. This is your in and out. You can set your 0 with this. Just turn it to 0. Set. There you go. Now it turns with the handle. And then you have this smaller one. It goes in out with whatever axes. And I've got a 15-degree angle on it currently, so it's sitting parallel 15 degrees. You've got your threading dial. Just twist this into space, and it'll mesh with this gear here, this lead screw, and then use your mark with your threading dial, and it's all in the instructions on how, so that your threads always end up the same. And with the threading dial, you don't have to reverse the machine to get out of a thread to come back and cut the same thread. You can use the carriage. The threading dial will turn to always stay on the same as the lead screw. When you're not using it, pull the threading dial out. So this is for cutting threads. Throw that lever and it'll start moving with the threads. For thread cutting, when not using it, you should leave it off just to keep wearing it out. If this is off, you can put the carriage into movement. And sometimes you gotta move it. There you go. So up is for the carriage laterally, horizontally I guess, to move back and forth with the power thread through the lead screw. And then down is for this cross slide to move. It actually moves out with the lead screw when running it forward. And then once you have that done, you engage it by just simply turning up the friction clutch. On, off. On, off. So all of that is run through the quick change gearbox. Pretty basic. It's currently set to B, which is the middle. And it's set to, looks like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 5. So B, 5, and I'm using a 36 stud gear. Gives me 20 threads per inch, which I have verified because I already cut one thread with it. I'm not very good, but I tried, so whatever. And then to engage this, you have your gearbox. To actually engage it, you have to flip that up, always while the lathe is not running. So now your head is turning gears, going into your lead screw, going through your quick change gearbox and into your saddle. If this is neutral in the middle, this won't spin, this won't spin, this won't spin, none of this will do anything. You have no power movement. So I'm going to flip it up, up, and then you also have down for reverse. Gotta mesh the gears though. Okay. Down for reverse, mid, up. Up. Sometimes it helps to move the headstock just a little bit to get the gears to mesh. Here's your headstock. So your belts drive your headstock, which turns your head. I currently have a 3-jaw chuck on there. This machine's 1.5 by 8 spindle. It's also got a Morse 3 taper internal. As you can see back here, it goes all the way through, and there's my workpiece on my 3-jaw. So you can put a piece up to pretty close to 1.5 inches all the way through. Last thing with the head is you have bowl gears. Pull out to engage your bowl gears, need to mesh them. So bowl gears, or back gears, my bad. Back gears mesh this, which is turned by the belts, to this. There's a gear down there which meshes to this gear. So as it sits now, we're going to burn up a belt because this gear is meshed with that gear, which is meshed with that gear, which is meshed with this gear. In order to prevent burning up your belt, you have to release this front gear, which you can't do with the bowl gears engaged. So turn it. And there's your front gear for your... So now your head spins freely of the rest. So when you engage your back gears engaged, now it's driven from this gear to that gear to that gear to that gear to this belt through the motor. And then, real simple, disengage your bowl gears or your back gear. And then re-engage your headstock to your gears. That pin on this lathe lines up with that threaded hole. If you don't get this all the way in, then these won't be perfectly meshed and you'll have slippage, and any type of load on the head will just slip this gear from the rest of the shaft. And I did that and I was really unhappy. I thought the motor was going out, and turns out I was just making a mistake. I'm not a machinist. I just own a machine that does machining things. So this is very simple as well. Loosen, tighten. Loosen, and then tighten it back up, which is not easy with one hand, but tried my best. And then tighten her back up. There you go. These aren't great for run out because there is some built in. It's just got a big old clockwise gear deal, scroll I think they call it, that moves these teeth inward. So it's not perfect, but for most of what I do, it's good enough. I've got a brush for brushing off chips to keep my ways clear so I don't burn them up, trash them. And then finally I've got, this is a live center, meaning this middle spins live with the workpiece. This is a lock. I don't use it very often. Morse 2 taper. And on this one, for this one in specific, turn it a little past and it'll actually pop your Morse 2 out. Basic machine. I've got a magnetic dial indicator for my 4-jaw and maybe for taking measurements. I haven't decided yet. It's also got this cabinet drawer that I got Jacob's chuck head in there, ruler, random tools, a bunch of quick change pull posts. These are high-speed steel bits. I bought them off eBay, just used, already ground. Not very expensive. Pretty good investment if you ask me, just because there are some well-grounded ones in there. That's a Kawasaki wrench. Don't know where that came from, but I have it. Nevertheless, they're already ground. They may not be well ground, but they are in a shape that cuts metal. I've tried. I've done it successfully, so that's where I like to be. I've got some PPE on. I'll get the lathe set up. We got her in go. I've got 20 threads per inch, but I don't really care about that. I'll get her set up and get the next part of the video started. Alright, set to 60 hertz. Turn it to forward. It's spinning up. I've got my safety glasses on. So, a couple quick basics. That's spinning up. I am not bolted to the ground. I probably should be, but I'm not. I've got it set for the saddle, carriage, to move, so when I pull this friction clutch, I should get some movement. Hand wheel spinning. I don't know how well you can tell it is moving. So, off. Let her spin down. With a VFD, it doesn't just stop power, it spins it down to kill it. And I think that has to do with the way it engages, and it's not an actual drive. So there's down, which means my cross slide now is going to start moving. I believe it moves in. Let's get her going. So when I pull this handle up, I should get this spinning and this coming towards me. We'll see. Look at that. Spinning. Slowly moving. Very slowly. So that is determined by 36B5. Looks like I'm going at 2/10 longitudinal feed. So turn that off. And we'll get it stopped. So next I'm going to engage my threading dial. Threading dial engaged. This has to be in neutral for you to use the threading throw lever. So start it again. And when I push this lever over, I will get movement for my threading. See how the threading dial isn't moving at all? It's meshed to this gear. So, sorry, meshed to that rod. Now, because this isn't moving, this is, so I can reverse it and throw it at 2. Stays at 2. I made my thread, turn it off, go back however far I want, get ready, throw it at 2. That'll keep you in the same groove every time. If you notice, oops, I screwed that up. This isn't overly tight, probably could be tighter to prevent that from happening. If you notice, it doesn't always hit exactly on the dial, or on the notch, but that's okay. So next, we'll go in for our initial touch off to get my 0. So there's my 0. This has got quite a bit of backlash in it. No movement there at all, just backlash. So I've got my 0. Let's set her to 0. Close enough. There should be 0. I'm just going to run it. Give it a little scrape pass. This material is not perfect. But there you go. Just a nice easy scrape pass. This is a carbide tipped tool. It was in the ones I had, so I use it. It's whatever. Let the machine roll down, get a different camera angle, and I'll take a few thou off of this. Okay. So, sorry the video's shaky. I don't have anywhere not on the lathe to mount it. Here's that same scrape pass, nothing. Go 10 thou on my dial and just give it a nice easy cut. And another 10 thou. So there's my start. You're going to hear some noise right here. That is just the machine doing intermittent cuts, interrupted cuts due to the workpiece. It's just a random rod I pulled off a lawnmower. No idea what type of steel it is. It'll be smaller steel when I'm done. And then go to this shoulder right here, like that. Perfect. That's the basics. It's a very easy to use machine. It does a good job. It's not strong by any means compared to like a 10 or 15 horsepower lathe, but I'm also working in a garage, and overall it's less than 6 foot wide. It fits nicely. It can plug into my 220 welder outlet. I bought an extra long cord. It works well. I actually got it free. I had to buy the head and the tailstock tapers and the quick change tool post. So it wasn't free to use, free to buy, free to get. Seems to do well. I like it. There's some of my chips, just rough passing it. It does have a threaded hole in the pan. I'm guessing so you can hook up a coolant flood system or something of that nature. Turn this back off. And the VFD I bought, as long as it has power, it's on. The fan is on. So I don't recommend leaving it plugged in all the time. If you have any questions about this lathe, I'd be happy to answer any that I can, the best I can. I can't guarantee you I'll have any answers. I did find a instruction manual online for the 1835 45 75 10-inch lathe. And yep, look, picture of almost exactly it. I did find these for sale. I also found this one for free and printed it. And I've got some cinder drills and random tools ready to use. This is a Logan. It's not the lowest quality. You know, it's not a Craftsman. I think Atlas was about the same as Craftsman, pretty low. I don't know what to say low quality, but not as quality machined as others. It's not a South Bend. I believe South Bends are the better ones. There's all kinds of English and American and all kinds of lathe manufacturers. Really, the disadvantage of this over a newer Chinese lathe is it's heavy. It is mostly cast iron. I took 2 people to move it in here in 4 pieces. I took it apart. Parts, I don't know how readily available they are, but it hasn't needed any. If you want to do any thread cutting, I would recommend the quick change gearbox. If not for convenience, then for the fact that you don't have to worry about losing a bucket full of gears, which I would definitely do. So the quick change gearbox is very nice. And there's some slop in the handles and, you know, lash in it, and you can hear that. It's not a perfect machine by any standpoint. I haven't leveled it technically. I don't know what that entails. I may do that someday. Probably not. It works for what I need it for, which is very little actual machining. Mostly just playing. So that's what I will do with it. Thank you. If you like this video, subscribe. If you have any questions, send me them in the comments. And if it's anything that can be done on the lathe, I can come out to the lathe and do it and see what it does. Anything else, you're probably as good off going on the internet as just going off for what I say, because that's where I get most of my information. I don't have a lot of experience, but I have been watching this old Tony videos, so I have some knowledge of what goes on. Thank you.